It was Christmas Eve, the kind of night people like to romanticize: snow falling, lights, glowing, everyone pretending the year ends neatly just because the calendar says so. I remember thinking that if miracles were real, tonight would be a good time for one. Instead, I got a man in a pressed uniform standing over me, pointing to the aisle, telling me to move, not asking, ordering, and the way he said it told me everything he thought he knew about who I was. I was sitting in the front seat of a private jet. Leather, still cold engine. Humming low, the cabin smelling like citrus cleaner and expensive fabric. I'd chosen that seat because I always did, because when you spend most of your life being talked over, shoved aside, underestimated, there's something grounding about sitting exactly where you're supposed to be. I had on an old hoodie, sneakers I'd broken in over years, no jewelry, no makeup, nothing that screamed success. I was tired. Bone tired. I just wanted to go home. He looked me up and down like I was clutter. "That seat is reserved," he said. His voice wasn't angry. It was worse. It was certain. Certain that I didn't belong there, certain that I'd move once reminded of my place. I told him calmly there must be a mistake, that this was my seat. He smirked. Not even subtle. The kind of smile people wear when they think they're being generous by not raising their voice. He explained slowly that the plane was chartered by a very important client, that someone like that wouldn't want their seat messed up, that I could sit in the back or wait outside or figure something else out. He didn't say it outright, but we both knew what he meant. I wasn't the client. I was the inconvenience. Here's the thing. I've been underestimated my entire life. Growing up broke teaches you that early. Being the only one who looks like you in certain rooms reinforces it. I learned how to swallow anger and smile before I learned long division, and usually I don't let it slide anymore. Usually I shut it down fast. But that night, something in me paused. I asked his name. He hesitated, then gave it confident again once he realized I wasn't backing him into a corner. He told me the real passenger was on her way, someone special, someone who deserved the front. That word, deserved, stuck with me. I looked around the cabin at the polished wood, the quiet luxury, and thought about the years it took me to afford any of it. About the nights sleeping on couches, the meetings where people talked past me, the deals I had to fight twice as hard to close. And he was standing there deciding my worth based on a hoodie. I could have ended it right there. I could have pulled out my phone, made one call, and watched his confidence evaporate. But curiosity got the better of me. I wanted to know how deep this went. I wanted to see what happened when someone like him thought no one was watching. So I stood up. I said, "Fine." Soft voice, head down. He relaxed instantly, like a predator who'd just confirmed its prey wouldn't run. He pointed me toward the jump seat behind a curtain and told me to stay out of sight. I walked back there, heart pounding, not from fear, but from the strange calm that comes when you realize someone has underestimated the wrong person. Minutes later, she arrived. Tall, loud, wrapped in designer labels, perfume announcing her before her voice did. She laughed too loudly, called him by a nickname, kissed his cheek. She dropped into my seat like it had always belonged to her. He poured champagne. They toasted. He told her he'd handled the situation. Said I wouldn't be a problem. I sat in the cramped seat behind the galley listening, watching through a gap in the curtain, my hands clenched tight. They talked about money like it was air, about trips they didn't pay for, about people they stepped over. At one point she asked if I'd complain. He laughed and said people like me never do, that we're used to being told what to do. That line burned. Not because it was new, but because it was said so casually, like a fact of nature. That's when I checked my phone. The flight logs loaded, then the billing records. My stomach dropped. This wasn't a one-off. He'd been using my plane for months, logging fake trips, charging expenses, flying friends and favors. Hundreds of thousands gone. My name on paperwork for flights I'd never taken. He wasn't just disrespectful. He was stealing. Then it escalated. He came back, pulled the curtain aside and told me to get up. Said his guest was hungry. Said since the attendant hadn't shown I'd help. Serve dinner. Don't look her in the eye. The audacity almost made me laugh. Almost. I said, okay. Not because I was weak, because sometimes the best way to expose rot is to let it keep talking. I plated the food carefully, listened to every word, memorized every lie. While they ate, I messaged my security lead. Told him where I was, told him not to intervene yet. I wanted proof. I wanted the truth undeniable. Then the plane dropped. Hard. Alarms screamed. The laughter stopped. The man who'd been so confident minutes earlier went pale. Systems failed. The cabin tilted. Panic filled the air like smoke. Suddenly, no one cared what seat they were in. She was crying, clutching her dog, asking if we were going to die. He shouted orders, hands shaking. I stood up, instinct taking over. I told her to put on her mask. Told him where to divert, what runway could take us. He demanded to know how I knew. I told him the truth, that I knew this aircraft because it was mine. The look on his face when it clicked was almost surreal. Shock, fear, recognition too late to help him, but there was no time to savor it. We had to land, and somehow we did. Skidded onto an icy runway, engine screaming, then silence. On the ground he tried to regain control, tried to spin the story, tried to grab my arm and threaten me. That's when the authorities arrived. My team. The lights, the questions. I told them everything. I fired him on the spot. They pulled him away, still insisting it was all a misunderstanding. The investigation didn't take long. Fake maintenance records, skipped inspections. He'd risked lives to keep his little fantasy going. When confronted, he cried. Talked about pressure, about wanting to look successful, about being afraid she'd leave if he didn't impress her, as if that justified anything. Months later, I sat in a courtroom and watched him get sentenced. No uniform, no charm, just consequences. He looked at me like he wanted absolution. I didn't give it. Not because I'm cruel, but because accountability isn't cruelty. It's necessary. People ask me if it felt like revenge. It didn't. It felt like correction, like balance being restored, like a system that too often protects the confident and punishes the quiet finally doing its job. Here's why I'm telling you this. Not because of the plane, not because of the money, but because almost everyone watching this has been underestimated at least once. Judged by appearance, spoken down to, moved aside. And the world runs on the assumption that you'll accept it quietly. So I want to know what you think. Was I right to let it play out, or should I have shut it down immediately? Have you ever been misjudged in a way that changed everything? Drop your thoughts below. Argue if you want. Share your story. Because the only way this gets better is if we talk about it. And if you've ever been told to move out of a seat you earned, just remember, sometimes the quietest person in the room owns the whole damn plane.